The Holy Gospel for this service is taken from the 13th chapter of the Gospel according to St. John. Now, it was the day just before the Passover festival, and Jesus realized that his hour had come, that it was time for him to leave this world and return to his Father. And he loved his own who were in the world. He loved them right to the very end. And he knew that the devil had already entered the heart of Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray him. Well, Jesus and his disciples were at supper, and Jesus knew that he had come from God and that he was returning to God. And so he took off his outer robe, and he took a towel and he tied it around his waist, and then he took a basin and he poured water into it. And then he began to wash the feet of his disciples. And he dried their feet with the towel that was around his waist. Well, he came to St. Peter. And Peter said, "Lord, you will wash my feet?" And Jesus said, "Peter, you don't understand it now, but later you will." And Peter said, Lord, you will never, never wash my feet." And Jesus said, "If I don't wash your feet, you can't have any part in what I'm doing." And so Peter said, "Lord, then not just my feet, but my head and my hands as well." And Jesus said, "Anyone who's taken a bath is clean all over. All they need to wash is their feet. And you are clean, all but one of you." He said all but one of you because he knew who it was that was going to betray him. After he had finished washing the feet of all of his disciples, he put on his robe and took his place at the table, and then he said, "Do you understand what I've done for you? You call me teacher and Lord, and that's quite right, because that is who I am. And if I, your teacher and Lord, have washed your feet, then you must wash one another's feet. I've set you an example so that you do what I've done. I tell you the truth. A servant is not greater than the master, and those who are messengers are not greater than the one who sent them. If you understand this truth, you will be happy when you put it into practice." This is the gospel of our Lord. Please be seated.
Well, it feels long overdue, and yet it's never too late, right, to share stories from such an incredible experience. We're excited this morning to be here to tell you a little bit about the trip that our high school youth took to Denver this past summer when we went to serve and learn and really walk alongside people in that community and do what we could to make a difference. Sending kids out here from Light of Christ and going there to meet people and to just learn about the ministry that's happening. So while we were there, it was July 10th through the 17th. And you're going to get to see a great slideshow in a little bit. What we're going to do this morning is hear a few stories from our youth about places that we served. I'll give you a quick little overview. We flew in on Saturday, and then on Sunday had a chance to, my brother lives in Boulder, and so his oldest daughter, their oldest daughter, joined us for the mission trip. Claire's watching online. Hi, Claire, we miss you. She joined us for the week. But we stayed at their house the first night, camped out in the backyard in tents, and then went to worship with them at their church in Boulder. And then we drove to what was called Messiah Mountain Retreat Center. And that was the great location we got to stay for the week for our fellowship and our lodging. We were the only group that was there, which was a gift. And we had 16 youth, and myself and Shine Idy were the two adult leaders. And I'm just going to do this right here because it was such it's hard to even know how to thank an adult that comes on a mission trip because, Sean, you take a week off of work for a vacation, right? Some vacation time. we all know that it was a wonderful week in many different ways, and yet it's a lot of work as well. Not as much sleep as you would normally get at home, not the same type of bed. So I do want to say a huge thank you to Sean for coming as our other adult leader, being my incredible driver, and just cohort on this trip with these kids. So thank you so much. Yeah. Really, really appreciate all your love and time with the kids. So we had 16 of us, and on Monday and Wednesday we painted houses. You'll hear about that in a little bit. And then on Tuesday we served at an organization called Food Bank of the Rockies. And on Thursday, I'm wearing my Earthlinks t-shirt, and it says Community Ends Isolation. We served half the day at this organization called Earthlinks, learning about this community nestled right in downtown Denver that helps people that have experienced homelessness learn gardening skills and some trades to earn some money. They don't stay there, but they've gotten back on their feet, and they gather in this place to share stories and to grow as a community and to be able to garden. It's just, you like walk into this place and it's a piece of heaven. If you're ever in Denver looking for a great place to serve or to go and have a meal, this is an incredible community. So we were at Earthlinks in the morning on Thursday, and then at a place called the Action Center in the afternoon, handing out food and supplies to people that could just drive up and receive what they needed, whether it was diapers or healthcare items. We helped them sort those items, but then we also helped kind of shop for those people, because they would say, I have a family of 4. And we'd go around with a shopping cart and fill it up and then bring it out to their car and load it right into their car, and off they went. So that was Thursday. And then Friday and Saturday, we got to have some fun time. We'll see in the slideshow, we went to Red Rocks and did some hiking. We didn't get to experience a concert, but we got to see the beauty and hike around a little bit. And then we also went whitewater rafting, which was a great way to have some fellowship at the end of the trip. So that is the big Grand Canyon overview picture. Now I'd like to invite Haley and Sophie and Natalie to come up and share some stories, specific stories. So Haley is going to start. Introduce yourself, and then I'll let you tell what you're gonna, whatever story you want to share. I'm excited to hear what they have to share too.
Hi, I'm Haley.
Oh, you can take your mask off while you talk so that we can hear you.
Okay. Hi, I'm Haley. So we painted houses through Brothers Redevelopment. They're a nonprofit organization, and they basically help people who can't really pay for their house to be painted. And I think a lot of people don't think about how big of a deal it is to have your house painted, because it can either be a make or break to keep your house or not. So I think it was really cool to see how grateful they were about it, and it was really fun because the first house they gave us food, and the second house was definitely harder because they had stones kind of on the front, and so we had to like jab into the stones, and we probably destroyed some of their brushes because it would not go, but it turned out good, and it was really fun. And then after the second house, we got to go wash brushes, which that was kind of messy because sprayed all of us kind of, but I think it was fun. It's messy, but I think that made it even funner.
So you can see from this first picture here the before and after of this home that we painted, and one of the things that we learned is that in their developments there's oftentimes are requirements for what they need to do to keep it up, and they will get evicted if they can't do that. And so it's very hard for people, especially during the COVID pandemic, for them to follow these guidelines sometimes when they're having a hard time making ends meet anyway. So we, like Haley said, at this home, the woman wanted to have us in her house for a meal, and we told her we couldn't, so they ended up hauling out all these chairs, and she made us this incredible meal to share with us. And we had already brought our lunches, so we saved our lunches, and we said, do the best I said to the kids, this is how we receive their gratitude, so we ate around, sitting on chairs in their lawn, and took a longer break than normal, and we're pretty tired in the afternoon, but we got the whole entire house painted that day, and it just was such a gift to meet the family as well that we were helping to serve. She had taken in two younger girls. You can see them in the picture. The grandmother had taken in a kind of foster to adopt two younger girls that parents had passed away, and so she had a full house, and very clearly was hard financially to make ends meet. So, and then Haley talked about washing on the bottom pictures and the one on the right. This is the house we did on Wednesday. A college group had started it the day before, so we got to finish it up. It was so big that it was kind of a 2-day job. And then we went and cleaned brushes, and we had a blast doing that with some music, but it really was, they do a really good job of reusing supplies, let's say that. So, okay, Natalie.
I'm Natalie, and we did...
Why don't you tell them what grade you're in, too?
Haley's I'm currently a junior.
Yeah.
We did Food Bank of the Rockies the morning of the second day, and there we packed boxes with kind of like canned goods and other stuff which we actually like handed out like on the fourth day when we went to the Action Center. So we packed the boxes on Tuesday, and it was like an assembly line kind of. If you've been to Feed My Starving Children, it was kind of like that, but more foods. And then we saw, and then on Thursday we saw like where our boxes went. So that was really cool to see.
Yeah, so you can see we packed 591 boxes, and everybody was at a station and put their item into the box, and it went down the conveyor belt, and then there was a group wrapping them up at the end. And you'll see more pictures in the slideshow, but 13,790 meals we did in that morning as we packed those boxes. And I do have to say, I've never seen Sean work so, I mean, I know we were just getting to know each other that week, but man, he can move. So it was pretty fun to watch it, because you had to get all the items like unwrapped out of their boxes so that the kids could get them into the individual boxes with all the meals, and we were dripping sweat. It was really cool. Okay, so.
Hi, I'm Sophia. I'm a freshman right now. So the afternoon of Tuesday, we did something a little different.
I forgot to mention this one.
We weren't actually serving, we were learning. So it was an organization called Holy Kicks. It was, what they did was they like distributed new pairs of shoes to people who were experiencing homeless at the time around like was it Aurora area, a little bit outside of Denver. And so you can see there's 3 guys, Bruce, Tiger, and Gregory. So what we did is we split up into 3 groups, and we walked around with them. We walked around a lot with them. They showed us all the places, because they'd all previously been homeless at some point, and so we walked around with them. They showed us all the different places they had lived at one point on the streets. They told us the experiences of how they got to be homeless and how they bounced back and got out of it. And then they eventually started Holy Kicks. And so my guy in the bottom right-hand corner, you can kind of see him. He's super tall. His name is Bruce. And he told us how, was it about when he was like 20
He was
or
a
so.
semi-pro basketball player.
Yeah.
He had the longest arms and the biggest hands. I mean, it was unbelievable.
He was like
yeah.
6'6"?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he told us how he went from being a semi-pro basketball player to then I think he got shot.
He had some medical
issues, and he could not afford it. So.
It just completely drained everything he had.
Yeah, and so that's how he got to be homeless. And one of the best things he told us was that someone who is experiencing homeless, they're not homeless, they are just experiencing homeless. So I thought that was very cool. And so then he told us how he eventually got out of being homeless and how he's today working for this nonprofit company who does amazing work.
Yeah, so it was incredible to meet these people that shared their lives and their stories with us. And when we were about to go out on the tours, I thought to myself, okay, Lord, just send a bubble of protection, because we were at Colfax, right, is the name of the street, Sean?
Oh, yeah.
Longest street in the United States, north to south, that... some areas that are really nice, some that are definitely poorer. And I mean, they were pointing out places on our tours like, you know, someone was just shot here a couple weeks ago, you know. And at the beginning, I was like, gosh, should we go back and go to our retreat center and not do this? And I thought to myself, that would totally be my white privilege, just trying to be, I prayed that, I mean, we were sending them with adults, and we knew that it was, you know, that they were going to take care of us. But it was one of those things where I just, I knew we needed to go and learn and have our eyes opened to outside of the bubble that we live in and really grow our heart and our compassion for what it means. I don't think there's very few people that want to be homeless. They are people first, and they experience hard times. And we learned so much that day about who these guys were and their stories, and it just was really life-changing. So. Well, then we also had great fellowship, and if you want to share anything about these, you can. But on the top right is hiking at Red Rocks. The top left is we did worship every single day at MMRC. You can see the building on the picture on the top left is kind of the gathering space that we had, and on the bottom left is on one of the decks, playing some cards. Kids also love to do these hammock villages, so we'd go to different areas on the mountains and set up hammocks to watch the sunrise on the last day. Got up at like 4:30 in the morning, and then the bottom right is a picture with our rafting. So incredible relationships that were made and stories, and you know, it was kind of surreal being able to go on this trip after it had been canceled in 2021 from COVID, and we had a small group, but it's kind of like you become a family in so many ways. And I just can't thank all of you enough for your prayer. I know many of you were prayer partners for our kids. Many of you contribute financially for scholarships and things for our kids to go on these trips because they can be expensive. But what happens in the lives of these kids when they leave this place and go to another place to learn and grow and serve is incredible, and will equip them for their entire lives as they continue to serve and grow. So I hope all of you that are in grade school see some of these pictures on this slideshow coming up and get excited about going on a trip like this. It's kind of like one big sleepover with some friends, and you get to serve alongside each other. So I would like to, let's do a round of applause for all of you for support and the kids for taking time to serve and for sharing. Thank you. So enjoy these slides as you see some of the stories come to life here. So this is making tie-dye shirts before we left. So this was camping out at my brother's house on our first night there, doing a little hike. A couple of our youth are off at college. A couple had to work this morning, so high schoolers that were not able to get off time work. And then Claire's out in Colorado, so of our 16, thankful for those of you that could be here this morning. Some of them slept in hammocks that first night. Got kind of cold. Worship in Boulder. Drove up the hairpin curves to the top of the mountain to see the views. This is now our first day serving and painting with Brothers Redevelopment. We did painting, but we also did a fair amount of cleaning, so we would clean as much of the front entry area as we could, and all the mess we made, of course, trying to get that all cleaned up afterwards. It was amazing that we saw this house start to finish in one day, painted the whole thing. I gave Haley my camera for a little bit. So a huge transformation. This is at Food Bank of the Rockies. There's the assembly line of all the... And Nick wrapping up the boxes. This is one of the workers that shared her story about how she got to work at this organization. She was a recovering meth addict, and another incredible story there. This is the tours with Holy Kicks. It's a great organization. If you want to check them out online, they do some great work for helping people to have good footwear even when they're experiencing homelessness. Those are all our shoes, the front entry of our... This is the house that Haley was talking about, that you'll see the rocks in a little bit that were really hard to get all the paint in. This was a big... There are the rocks they painted. That whole bottom rock area. All the paintbrushes we cleaned. It's an incredible organization, again, Brothers Redevelopment. This was, we didn't talk about this one. This was, a couple of our youth went to Break Bread. It was an organization, they went and made a meal and delivered meals to those that don't have enough to eat each day. So that was another organization that we served at as well. This is all at MMRC where we stayed. This is Earthlinks. We spent a lot of time weeding their labyrinth and made a huge impact on that prayer labyrinth. No weeds. This was at the Action Center where we got to distribute food and personal care items. So and they also have a clothing center. Depending on the size of their family, they would get a certain amount of food that was outside the building. Saw a lot of wildlife, which was cool. This was hiking at Red Rocks. That's my brother. Hi, Matt. That's Gretchen Ness, and our picture earlier was with Nick Egley. Those are our two graduates that are off at college. They're probably watching online too. There's Nick. We did a lot of prayer partner things and devotions each day. Clearly this is our rafting trip. We went through Clear Creek. Only one person fell out. Sarah tipped out of our raft, and she was okay. But she was laughing about it right afterwards. It wasn't too rough, actually. This is our morning sunrise, early morning on the last day. brought sleeping bags up there, and that wasn't even initiated by me. Let me tell you, the kids decided they wanted to do that, and I said, okay, I'll go with. A lot of beautiful flowers. Pretty tired after that day. And then this was our foot washing service. So a huge heartfelt thanks to all of you watching at home, all the support that you had a part in this trip. We just give you so much thanks, and we look forward to future trips and what that will be. A lot to decide for this upcoming summer. But for all of the youth ministries here at Light of Christ, we just can't say thank you enough for all that you give. So thank you so much.
To all of our mission trip participants for being God's living, loving presence in the world during that trip. And I also want to make a special thank you to you, Kirsten, for all the time and energy and effort you put in to make this happen. So thanks to you.